I realized that I haven't really been like relying on God in this particular situation in the way I should be. I am praying about it, but like not so much saying a prayer like, God, please turn baby girl head down because this is the birth I want. More of, you know, asking God, like, if that's your will, that's great. But if it's not, help change me. You know what I mean? Help me change my expectations. It's Amanda and welcome to my week 35 update. I can't even believe I'm saying week 35. It's almost over. I can't even believe it. You can probably see that we're in a kind of slightly different angle here and everything. We got Alex moved into his new big boy room this week, so that is awesome. We're so excited about that. And we originally were going to set up his old room as baby girl's nursery. But we did a lot of thinking about it and decided ultimately that we would really like that room to be an office and for the room we were using as our guest room to be baby girl's nursery, because that's ultimately we wanted those two bedrooms to be kid rooms. So this weekend, after we finished moving Alex into his new big boy room, we moved the guest bed out of what we were using as our guest room and brought it in here, which is kind of our rec room, which is where I do my filming. Now I'm sitting on a bed instead of a chair. I've noticed that my eyebrows look really dark now. I went and had my lash and my brow tint this week. I know I mentioned that last week. It does make me feel like I am a little more ready to be less frumpy after giving birth. So I got all those things done now, haircut, lash and brow tint. We're good to go. And just forgive me if I am looking a little tired right now because, oh my gosh, I had to like force myself to come make this video because I have been so exhausted all the time. See what I mean? I'm so tired. It takes everything I have to just get anything done during the days right now because I'm just so tired. That's like the main symptom right now. But here I am forcing myself to get her done. So the main thing I wanted to mention this week is baby girl is still Breech. She is big enough now that it is very clear to me when I feel my belly where she is. I can definitely tell head versus butt now because she's so big. I had the midwife describe to me specifically how to tell the difference between a head and a butt. And she said that, you know, a head is a little bit rounder and it moves independently of the shoulders a little bit, so you are able to just like move it a little bit, whereas if you're feeling a butt, it's going to make the whole body move, if that makes sense, since the butt is connected to the whole body. Like there isn't that movement like there is with the neck. So that really helped me in just feeling for myself where she is. So unfortunately this week I can tell she is still head up. She is just awfully comfortable in that position. So I am continuing to do the things that I can to try and get her to turn. So this week I have been doing some of my inversions where I stick my butt up in the air. I haven't been doing that one as often as I probably should, just because like when I do it all the blood rushes to my head and it's uncomfortable, but I know I need to be doing it. I had a friend who said that after you do it after a while that your body kind of gets used to it and you stop having that like head rush feeling. And I've also been doing a breech tilt. What I did was I have, for my massage business, I have, actually for pregnancy massage is why I have this thing, but it's like this foam wedge that I can stick right up to the couch, and so it makes it so that I can lie on my back with my feet up in the air and my head down, and that's what a breech tilt is. You're supposed to, you know, have your body at an angle like this, which gets baby out of the pelvis and, you know, allows a little more space for baby to move. So I've done a couple of those. I have researched the heck out of this, and I have like been trying everything that anybody has ever suggested. I tried putting ice on top of my belly and heat down low, and like the cold penetrates that far into the uterus, and baby doesn't like the cold, and so supposedly they turn their head away from that and move towards the warmth. So I've tried that a few times and that hasn't worked, and so I'm like, oh geez, I hope I'm not like giving baby girl brain freeze here since she had ice on her head all that time. But I mean, I read about it and they said there's no danger to doing ice and heat on your belly. So the other interesting thing I did yesterday evening, actually, because I had my mother-in-law here watching Alex, I went to the pool. And I know I've mentioned that I was going to try doing this. Doing handstands in the pool, because something about like being in the water, like water and water, like the buoyancy of baby in there, just you being weightless, it makes it easier for them to move in there, and just the motion of going upside down is supposed to get them to turn. So I went to the pool, and oh my goodness, I just feel like a walking circus at the pool right now, especially when I'm there by myself and I'm extremely pregnant. You can like see people like looking out of the corner of their eye like, oh my goodness, she's so pregnant. It's true, I am. But yeah, just had to get over that and just get in the pool and do my thing. I asked one of the lifeguards where's a good place for me to do some like stationary exercises, and she said, oh, well, there's this recreation area. So I went over there, and it was only like 4 feet deep, and it was like where all the kids were playing with like basketball and water and everything, and it was really kind of crowded in there. And I tried doing a handstand, but it was too shallow. Like even 4.5 feet was too shallow for me to actually get up and do a handstand. And so I was like, well, this isn't working. So I went over to the other part of the pool, which is like the lap part of the pool. And actually went in the deep end, and that worked a lot better. There was just a lot of open space there. There weren't as many people there. And so I started doing, it wasn't actually handstands because it was, 12 feet, it's the deep end. And so I was basically just like doing synchronized swimming, like dive down and like put my feet sticking out of the water and just like stay there as long as I could hold my breath, and come up and go back down and do it again. And every once in a while I'd swim a lap just to get some exercise. So I must have gone upside down like 20 or 30 times. Like I did this a lot. So after that, I, got showered off and got back in my car. And before I drove home, I felt her again to see if it had worked, if she had flipped, and no such luck. I still felt that little head up top. And I was actually feeling pretty hopeful about the swimming pool one too. I'd heard people that had been successful for a number of people. Tried that. Moving on to the next thing now. I've heard people recommend using peppermint essential oil, like putting that at the top of your belly, which is supposed to be the same kind of effect as putting ice on your belly, because it has a cooling effect and baby moves away from that. But I was talking with Bill about that, and we're both a little skeptical. I mean, I think essential oils are really helpful for a lot of things. I actually would really like to learn more about essential oils, but we're a little skeptical about that. Like, is the the cold, tingly sensation of peppermint like really going to penetrate all the way to my uterus? Like, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical, but then again, like, I feel like it can't do any harm. It's peppermint oil. I'd use it with coconut oil or whatever as a carrier, and we'll see. I might give it a try. I do have some peppermint oil. So those are all the things that I've tried so far, and to no avail. She is just ridiculously comfortable in her breech position, and I am, coming up on 36 weeks here, and I'm like, I feel like time is running out. I know babies can flip at the last minute and everything, but it has been seriously causing me so much anxiety, because I'm like, time is running out, baby girl. The bigger you get, the harder it is going to be to turn. But as I've mentioned before, our last resort is that if she doesn't turn by 37, 38 weeks, my midwife is going to schedule me with an OB to have an external cephalic version done, which is where the OB like physically like manipulates your belly and turns baby around. And it has about just a slightly over 50% success rate. So I guess it really can help half the time, which is great, but it doesn't always. So anyway, so it's really been getting me thinking, like, you know, I've been trying all these things, trying all these things, and they're not working. And it's just, you know, starting to make me wonder, like, well, what is the reason that she's not turning? Is it, you know, like, is she stuck in some way? Yet one more thing that I'm worrying about. When Alex was born, he had an extremely short umbilical cord. It actually broke the moment he came out, which could have been a serious complication if it had broken before he came out, but it broke as he came out and he ended up being fine. Because I'm thinking, if that's the case with baby girl, maybe that's one of the reasons she's like unable to move. I feel like a few times where she's kind of been like diagonal in my belly. It's almost like she's trying to turn, but she can't. And so it's just making me wonder if it's something like that. If she has a short cord, or, you know, maybe my hematoma or something is getting in her way. You know, I don't even know. So now I'm worrying about that. And, you know, I had talked with my midwife about, you know, what causes a long versus a short umbilical cord. And she said actually the amount of movement that the baby does has a direct link to how long the cord is. I was like, well, that's interesting. It makes sense. The more baby moves around, like if you have a really active baby, the more it stretches that cord and stretches it and makes it grow actually a little longer. And if you have a really chill baby, they tend to have shorter cords. So interestingly enough, I mean, Alex is an extremely chill little kid. I mean, you know, he has his moments, but his overall demeanor is that he is just very mellow. And that makes sense with how he was in utero too, because, I mean, he moved around. I felt him, but he wasn't like a crazy acrobat or anything. So that makes sense why he had a short cord. I have been feeling even less movement from baby girl than I did with Alex. And so, you know, I do feel her, but she's really not a super active baby. There are times when she, you know, she has little moments of higher activity, but most of the time she's really chill as well in there. And so that's making me wonder, well, is that going to cause her to have a shorter cord? So, oh my gosh, as you can tell, I have all these things reeling through my brain, like, what's causing it? What if this? What if that? You know? I was thinking, if that's the case, like, maybe having a version done won't be successful. You know, worst case scenario, it won't be. I'm still hoping that it will. You know, they monitor baby, they do ultrasound the whole time and monitor baby's heart rate the whole time they do it, so I feel really comfortable about them trying. And if something really drastic happens, they just give you an emergency C-section right then and there, basically, which is really, really rare for that to happen. But you do it with, that's the reason you do it with an OB, just in case something serious happens, like if you get like placenta abruption, like where the placenta detaches while they're doing it, and that's clearly an emergency. But it's, you know, I read that the likelihood of something like that happening is like ridiculously low. So I feel comfortable with, if we still get to 37 weeks and she still hasn't turned, then I am going to go have that done. But it's also making me think, well, what if that doesn't work? That leaves me with two options basically, and that is either having a vaginal breech birth or having a C-section. My midwife has told me that they know of an OB in the area who's kind of far away from us, actually. I looked her up, and she's actually like an hour and a half, 2 hours from where we are. And I'm not entirely convinced that breech vaginal birth is something that she like actively does. I would actually want to like call her office and, you know, like hear it from the source myself. And the reason I'm skeptical about it is because I went online and I read a bunch of mom forums, actually. You know, people were asking the same question I was asking. Is there any OB in the entire region that is willing to do vaginal breech births? And the consensus, like on forum after forum after forum, is that in Western Washington, or even the entire state of Washington, that there are no OBs who are willing to do it. And I'm like, really? one of my friend's sister-in-laws actually was in this situation. She was actually going to the same midwives that I'm going to now, and had a breech baby. They searched and searched and searched and searched and searched, and they could not find an OB that was willing to deliver a vaginally breech. And so I'm starting to get skeptical about whether that's even an option now. I have read in the forums that there are more OBs actually in Oregon who are willing to do it versus Washington. Why Oregon? I don't know. It's kind of surprising to me. I feel like Portland is just about as equally progressive as Seattle area, so I don't know. But that seems to be the consensus anyway. So I do want to research it. I do want to see if I can find an OB that will actually tell me that they are comfortable with doing it before I even pursue that option. Because I have, you know, I've done a lot of reading, and if you have a really well-trained OB who's done this a lot, and they're really comfortable with it, then I would feel really comfortable having a breech birth with them. Thing is, though, if it is that rare, and most OBs aren't even trained very well how to do a vaginal breech birth anymore, I'm asking myself, do I really want to be under the care of an OB that isn't that experienced with it? You know what I mean? That gives me trepidation, because it's like, if I'm going, like, because there are risks with doing a vaginal breech birth, and you know, if you're with somebody who's really skilled, it can be done well, but it sounds like there really isn't anybody who's that skilled in it in the area. So it's like, do I really want to do something that does have higher risks with a doctor that isn't that comfortable with it? I'm not sure if I want to do that, you know? It makes me kind of sad, actually, that our medical culture has become so fear-based, and so many medical decisions are based on the likelihood of lawsuit. And I'm not really sure if that's how all medical decisions should be made, you know what I mean? But you know what, like, this is just the reality. This is what it is. Like, this is what I have to work with. So I'm starting to just like get into the mentality that, you know, I may end up having to have a C-section. I mean, this is like obviously last resort. We're trying everything else first to get baby to turn, and I am hoping and praying, and if you guys could be hoping and praying for us as well that she turns head down, that would be much appreciated. But at the same time, I realized that I have to be realistic about it. I had this moment the other day when I realized, you know what, I'm really trying to be pretty controlling of the situation, like, which is like my personality. It was like when Bill and I were going through our infertility struggle. It's like we were trying everything we could, like trying to take so much control of the situation, and it ended up failing with all of that effort. And it was at the point when we like finally, it took us a long time to get to the point where we finally let go and was like, okay, God, like, there's a very real possibility we may never have kids. And the next month we got pregnant, naturally, miraculously. Go watch that video. I'll link it down below if you haven't seen it. But I just realizing this is kind of like a similar, it's a kind of different situation, but similar in some ways, in that I realized that we're trying to take so much control, and, you know, I have such strong beliefs about trying to avoid C-section so much, which I think is legit. You know, granted, with our 30% C-section rate in our country, which greatly needs to be improved, I think. But at the same time, I am realizing that, you know, this is the situation that I have to work with, and I really need to let go a little bit here. You know, it's like there's only so much that I can do. And then at that point, you just have to give it over to God, you know what I mean? I realized that I haven't really been, like, relying on God in this particular situation in the way I should be. I really feel like I need to be letting go a little bit more, and I am praying about it, but, like, not so much saying a prayer like, God, please turn baby girl head down, because this is the birth I want. More of, you know, asking God, like, if that's your will, that's great. But if it's not, help change me. You know what I mean? Help me change my expectations. Bring me peace with whatever it is that the ultimate situation is going to be. And so I just had this moment the other day when I realized that, and I was like, I really need, I know it's so cliche, but I really need to let go and let God. And so since I had that moment, I've been feeling a lot more peace about it. And that, you know, I'm still going to be trying to do all of these things to help her to turn head down, and if she does, that's great. That is what I ultimately want, but I'm also coming to terms with the fact that if she doesn't, working within the bounds of the medical system that surrounds me geographically where I am right now, you know, a C-section is a very real possibility. And I feel like I'm just starting to come to terms with that a bit more. It's not ideal, but it is a safe way to deliver a breech baby. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. As for symptoms this week, as I mentioned at the beginning, I am completely exhausted all the time. I just feel like a complete good for nothing most of the day. It's like I feel like I need to nap multiple times a day, which I can't do when I'm taking care of a toddler, unless I have, you know, like my mother-in-law watching him, which is great. But I have been like doing things that make me feel guilty as a mom. Like occasionally I will just put on one of Alex's favorite shows, like Baby Einstein or something that he's like totally enthralled by, and put it on for an hour so I can like take a nap on the couch because I am so tired. I feel like I can't do anything. I admit to doing that a couple of times now because I just like feel like I so desperately need to nap in order to function. And usually I can function a little better, even if it's just a little short power nap. And every day when Alex naps, I am napping now. So I feel like it's like no matter how much sleep I get at night, it's like I have to nap during the day. Otherwise I don't make it through. And that said, like the insomnia this last week has been horrible. Like I've mentioned all the other weeks, it seems like it just kind of comes and goes. I had a few days in a row this last week where, you know, I'm exhausted at night and I fall asleep quickly, but then I wake up after 3 hours to pee and then I cannot fall asleep again. So there were a few rough days last week, especially because it was like, was it Thursday or Friday or whenever that happened, and, you know, Bill was at work and, you know, I had to get by on 3 hours of sleep, taking care of a toddler and being as exhausted as I was on top of that, being pregnant. But thankfully, over the weekend, Bill and I did our little routine where he let me sleep in a lot and then I would nap while Alex was napping after that. So that really helped me catch up from the whole insomnia thing that I was dealing with for a few days. So part of the thing with this insomnia is, like, the reason I can't fall back asleep is because my head is just like reeling. It's so funny because I'm so exhausted at night and I fall asleep so quickly, but then I wake up and I start thinking about all of the things I have to do. I'm like, oh, we have to finish getting Alex's room ready, we have to finish getting the nursery ready, I have to pack my hospital bag, you know, I have to like adjust and print out my birth plan, I need to finish organizing, I need to clean the house, like all of these things I feel like I constantly need to do. It's like I need to have this appointment done, that appointment done before she arrives, and it's just like, oh my god, and then I have no energy to do any of these things, right? It's just like this vicious cycle. So the other thing I think I mentioned last week was that there was a bit of a high blood pressure scare when I went to the midwife last week. It was a bit of a high reading. I went in 2 days later and it was a bit of a high reading again. And they drew my blood both times. Remember I told you guys that like both of those times that I went in, I had Alex with me and it was really stressful because out here I was trying to have an appointment and he was like running all over and like walking in on people and like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. And I could feel my blood pressure was higher, just like trying to constantly manage talking to the midwife and keeping track of Alex and like making sure he wasn't getting into things, and it was just so stressful. The second time I went in, not only did I have Alex with me, but it was like the morning after I had had the horrible insomnia, and so I was like really sleep deprived, not feeling well. Anyway, so then they wanted me to come in after the weekend they wanted me to come in this Monday to have a third blood pressure check. So this time was different. Alex was with my mother-in-law this week, and I was able to go at my leisure and go to the midwife by myself. And I think that seriously made a difference. Like, I felt so much more calm when I was there. The midwife called me back with the blood lab results and my blood pressure and all that. And she said, well, this time your blood pressure was low. It was totally normal. Like, you don't even need to worry about it anymore. I was like, okay. That just like goes to show that I was right, that, you know, when I had my blood pressure taken, I was just really flustered and stressed out. But, you know, I'm really glad that I went in for the third time by myself when I was relaxed and calm and feeling happy. So that all is a relief. I'm glad that I'm not having to worry about preeclampsia right now. However, I did start suddenly getting a ton of swelling this week. Oh my gosh, my poor ankles. Like, you know, I mentioned before that I thought that the swelling wasn't as bad in this pregnancy as my last pregnancy. Well, that changed this week. It is now just as bad as it was in my first pregnancy. I seriously have cankle, like literally cankles, like the calves and the ankles all just meshed together. It's like you can't even see them anymore. I'm having the pitted edema, and it goes all the way up to my knee. It's just like I am so swollen and puffy. And 2 or 3 days ago, my hands started swelling as well, which, as you can see, I'm not wearing any ring anymore because I am so swollen. You know, I had told you I was wearing my grandma's ring, which was great for just my low-level swelling that I had before. It was just the right size for that. But this morning, I woke up and grandma's ring would not go on my finger. So, like, my hands have really swollen. So, I don't have preeclampsia, which is good, but that just means that I'm just having the normal, really late pregnancy swelling. It's fun. And so I talked to the midwife about it. She said just really increase your fluid intake. So I've been trying to be really good about that today and drinking a lot of water and any kind of liquids, just trying to keep the liquids going. Just a few other things that I wanted to mention is I am getting heartburn. This week it feels like the heartburn set in. I really didn't have heartburn most of this pregnancy, and it's still like not so bad that it's like that I can't live with it, you know what I mean? Which I'm thankful for. I have some friends who have had it so bad that it makes them sick. So I'm thankful that it's not that bad, but I am noticing anytime I eat anything now, there's just like that little bit of, you know, burning sensation in my esophagus. It's not too bad. I'm living with it. I think baby girl is continuing to really grow fast because I am getting more stretch marks on my belly. I am so sad. I know I mentioned I had like 1 or 2 little tiny ones starting, and now I have like 5 or 6. It's like I just got this little like bloom of them on my lower belly. Anyway, and the ones on my hips that I had before, those are all darkening now, so I have stretch marks all over. They're not like all over my belly, but just they're kind of in a little row underneath my belly button, really low. So anyway, so that's been happening this week. Oh, and I forgot to mention last week, when talking about my midwife appointment, I had mentioned that I had been having a lot of Braxton Hicks contractions with cramping, which I thought maybe was concerning. But when I asked the midwife about it, she said that's actually really common, especially in subsequent pregnancy, like after your first pregnancy, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever. It's really common to have cramping with that, and that actually could mean that my cervix is starting to thin and dilate a little bit now, which at this point is totally fine. I mean, because you can be dilating for a month. Because it's a subsequent pregnancy, it's like your body remembers what it's doing this time around. That's partly what makes for faster labors the second time around, is because your body remembers what it's doing, and it does so much of like pre-labor with the Braxton Hicks, and actually does contract your cervix a little, you know, up to a month beforehand. It makes the actual active labor faster. So she said that that's probably what your body is doing. That's a good sign, and that's a good indicator that as long as I am able to have my vaginal birth, that it will probably be faster than my 35 hours that I had with the first one. So that actually is one plus this week. You know, right now I'm at the point where I'm embracing the Braxton Hicks right now. I'm like, yeah, bring it on. The more ready my body is, the better. So anyway, that is it for this week, you guys. Thank you for bearing with me. I feel like this particular vlog was just like me just like rambling on and on. But it's good because I feel like, you know, this is kind of like my journal. Talking to you guys is like my journal, and like talking about everything that's going through my head and just remembering all the things that I want to remember about the pregnancy. So anyway, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Let me show you a quick belly shot. Since we now have this bed in the way, I'm going to do my best to just show you belly shot from this angle here on my knees. So there is week 35 in the front, and the other side. That's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to click that thumbs up button if you like this video, and to subscribe down below if you'd like to see more updates to come. And hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.